Welcome to a brand new episode of Cubistruck. Mirantis just announced k0rdent Virtualization, which is seen as a major step towards unifying infrastructure for AI, containers, and VM-based workloads. In today's discussion, we are going to break down what does this mean for enterprise IT. What does this mean for those businesses who have been long-time VMware customers who are looking at alternatives after the Broadcom acquisition? We will also talk about whether this offering by Mirantis is a legitimate VMware alternative or VMware killer. We'll also talk about why Kubernetes-native infrastructure can be the foundation for the next wave of cloud-based innovation. And to go deeper into this topic, today we have with us once again Dominic Wilde, SVP of Marketing at Mirantis. Dominic, it's great to have you back on the show.
It's great to be here. Thanks, Will.
It's my pleasure. And today you folks are announcing k0rdent Virtualization, which is, if I'm not wrong, based on k0rdent Enterprise. First of all, let's just give folks a bit of a background about k0rdent Enterprise, and what led to this announcement today.
As I think you'll remember, we announced k0rdent as an open source project back in February. k0rdent provides the ability for platform engineers to do large-scale multi-cluster management, but we also then followed quickly on with another announcement articulating that we were really focusing on k0rdent in supporting AI infrastructure rollout, and we'd added some functionality around AI inferencing, and so the whole platform GA back in sort of February. So fast forward to today, k0rdent has from the very beginning been able to help with managing and deploying virtualization workloads as well as containerized workloads, bare metal, etc. But today we're sort of following up with an announcement around a further sort of, if you like, integration around virtualization. And most specifically, what we've done is created a more familiar user experience and workflow for those platform engineers, admins who have been working with VMware in the past and VMware products. So we've made it a more familiar experience, and that's basically the basis of the announcement today is creating that user interface experience.
And when I was also reading press release, and I see that it's kind of unifying infrastructure for, of course, the modern workload, which is AI, containerized, and also VM based. What is the driver behind this unification? Why is it so important for to bring all these infrastructures together for AI?
It's not even really just for AI, but overall, what we've seen happen over the course of time is a sort of fragmentation of the tool chains, the tool sets, the management platforms available to organizations. And, quite frankly, up to this point, there has been a sort of, hard choice that if you choose, for instance, to be in a hybrid environment, you may find yourself working with, tools and interfaces that are helping you manage the public cloud, and a different set of tools that are helping you manage sort of on-premise cloud and workloads. k0rdent was kind of birthed out of a belief that AI is the next big sort of killer app for cloud. And because it adds a lot of sort of, complexity in terms of pushing a lot of the sort of inferencing workloads to the edge, and now there's a sort of greater focus on things like, data sovereignty. Now is the right time to be, focused on creating a unified, management experience for both the hybrid cloud experience, the public cloud experience, private cloud experience, wherever that may be. And so, we birthed k0rdent out of the belief that what customers need in terms of operationalizing today is they need a centralized platform that delivers a common control plane that allows them to treat, basically all of their cloud real estate as a single entity. And k0rdent does that in a very non-invasive, sort of very standardized way. We've leveraged Kubernetes functions and capabilities, particularly the CAPI, and we're obviously we introduced k0rdent back in February, as I said, as an open source initiative, and the whole point behind that was we strongly believe that the community should drive a technology solution rather than vendors deciding on the tool sets, the tool chains, the management interfaces, etc. And that we should be all standardizing across the board to make this it's kind of like broad operational challenge much more manageable.
So if you look at purely from business's perspective, when they look at it, unified approach, how they see, hey, this is solving my problem. What problem is it solving for them?
Oh, it's a number of problems. So I think from a business perspective, there's obviously several things that if I'm sat in the C-suite or a boardroom, I'm worried about. I'm worried about growing the top line. I'm worried about new streams of revenue, and that speaks directly to my organization's ability to innovate and innovate fast. And in a world where AI is really sort of coming up very, very quickly, it's creating a lot of disruption, but also a ton of opportunity in the market. In order to be competitive, every organization needs to be able to innovate rapidly. And so k0rdent, again, was, in terms of being able to solve a lot of the sort of underlying infrastructure problems, abstract the complexity of infrastructure, allows developers to move a lot faster in terms of their innovation agenda. Secondly, you want to kind of reduce, the bottom line as well. You want to, take out as much expense, create as much efficiency as possible. And so, as you start to look at, how do you scale out these sort of distributed AI services and even broader legacy services, you start to realize that this starts to create a problem, a scale out problem in terms of, complexity of the infrastructure and how to manage it, how to create rapidly new clusters, for instance. And because we take a declarative approach and a templatized approach, we enable you to start to create a library of operational services that can quickly be scaled out in a repetitive and reliable and robust manner. And so we enable you to do basically more with less. But also related to that, the other big challenge from a business perspective is mitigating risk. I think every C-suite, every boardroom is every business owner is worried about a lot of the risk today, and risk not just from a security perspective, but increasingly from a regulatory perspective. We're living in a fairly complex world in terms of geopolitics. And we need to make sure that we're, regulatory compliant, that, we're making sure that as we scale and we scale fast and we innovate fast, we're not breaking any rules or, that we're not meant to. And so again, our approach with k0rdent is to, deliver a very, very robust, reliable and low risk capability to scale out businesses rapidly. And accelerate innovation.
These days, when we talk about, of course, virtualization or VMware workload or containerized, one word that pops up in everybody's head is VMware, especially after the whole Broadcom acquisition, because of the whole change in pricing, licensing concerns there, they are also looking at alternatives there. Is it also kind of time, because folks who are looking at alternatives, they can look at Mirantis that, hey, this is what they can rely on, or you're like, no, that's totally different space?
No, it's absolutely spot on and the right space. Yes, in delivering k0rdent virtualization, we've created a user experience that is very akin to what a very broad swathe of customers have become familiar with in terms of their VMware operationalization. So we wanted to ensure that all the years of training and things that people have gone through as they've worked on VMware and their workflows that they've worked hard on, that those are not wasted, and we're not asking people to rip things up and start all over again. But indeed, we're coming in with a very viable alternative for those who are feeling that they are now priced out of VMware. Let's be frank about it. That's what the concern is. We've now created an alternative for them that is based purely on open source, is fully composable, gives them choice, allows them to keep parts of the environment that they currently use, including VMware, but allows them a smooth migration path and a familiar workflow and familiar sort of interface as well. We're strong believers in transitions. Businesses very rarely rip things up and start all over overnight, and so we're strong believers that this will be a transition over time. That there's not just the VMware challenges happening, but also new challenges with AI, etc. And so as people start to look at re-architecting or re-looking at how they're doing things, we're offering this open source composable approach that's very familiar to them.
When we do look at, and I have had a lot of discussions with folks, look at VMware alternatives, they're still trying to figure out, what is there, how viable, how mature it is, because of course the fact is that VMware solutions have been mature. So if you look at this offering, would you call it kind of VMware killer? Because then folks also look at Kubernetes, they also look at Red Hat OpenShift as well. How do you position it?
So as I said, we believe that customers have had a wake up call. The whole sort of VMware debacle has been a wake up call. And fundamentally, there's been a break of trust with vendors. Now one of the first questions we get is, well, if I choose you, and in 3 years I want to get off you, how does that work? Customers want to know that they have, an on-ramp, but also an off-ramp, should they, choose that path. And because we've taken an open source and a standardized approach, and our belief is that customers should be following, the community-driven technology evolution rather than, opinionated vendor stacks. We've taken the approach of taking standardized, pieces. The virtualization that we're delivering is based on KubeVirt, which is, open source. But we've integrated that into the k0rdent environment to make it to add additional value around scalability and rollout and deployment, day 0, day 1, day 2 capabilities. And so we believe that the path forward is a path of giving customers choice rather than locking them in. So, there are many other vendors who message an open source message. There's many other vendors who sort of say, we pull from upstream. But they pull from upstream and then, sort of like, basically closed source things. And sure, there's advantages for specific use cases. But if you want a solution that fits your business, rather than trying to get your business to fit a solution, that is what Mirantis is delivering. We are delivering the capability and a platform that is flexible enough to fit your business, to allow you to have choice without adopting unnecessary risk, and also being able to, be affordable and at the end of the day, if you need that off ramp in 3 or 5 years or whenever it is, that's available to you, because this is all really based on open source.
And when we're talking about businesses, what kind of businesses or use cases that you feel will be served the best with this offering?
Yeah, so this is a broadly applicable to sort of all enterprises, but with we're getting initial traction with SaaS companies, financial services, CSPs, telcos. I mean, it's a broad range of different customers who are using our solutions, and but in general, our approach is that most customers really want to start simple and then scale fast. So that's kind of our mantra. Is we've designed Cordant and now these virtualization capabilities being packaged on top. We've designed this so that customers can in fact try this out at smaller scale, be fully in control, get themselves comfortable. In general, we would see a deployment, happening and a full migration happening on average over the course of a number of weeks. Much larger scale, maybe a couple of months, because we also offer migration services for massive scale. We've worked on that with customers as well, but in general, most customers want to sort of come in, try it out, and then once they get comfortable, once they understand how this serves their business, they then want to be able to scale fast, and that is the part that the Cordant adds, is that that infinite scalability.
And why is it so important to enable both traditional and modern workloads? We are looking at AI workloads, we are looking at VMware based,
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, ultimately, really the value is efficiency. It is, when I boil it down to the most, basic sort of value add, as it were, it is really around being able to do more with less. A single platform, a single set of tools, and a single operational model is always more efficient, is always more cost effective. It gives you a platform to build upon and innovate on. Now, at the end of the day, are there going to be examples where customers need to keep multiple tools or multiple platforms, or have different stacks supporting different capabilities? Yeah, of course that's going to happen, and customers should not be forced. In that instance, if it serves their business, they should not be forced to move to a single model. And again, because Cordant is kind of built on open source, we're using open standards, interfaces and APIs. We can very, very easily integrate with existing, management platforms and stacks as well, and add value. In fact, this is one of the things we actually do with the public cloud, which is a very opinionated and somewhat closed system. We will integrate, for instance, with Kubernetes provided by Amazon or Google or Azure. But equally, if you find yourself frustrated or wanting to move away from using the Kubernetes distributions provided by those public cloud providers, we can deploy your Kubernetes of choice using Cordant as an overlay onto the public cloud, and run that way, and normalize a single operational model as well. So this kind of hybrid example is a good example of what you're talking about, where a lot of customers will be very happy using the tools provided by Amazon, but if they aren't, we provide an alternative as well. We'll integrate with Amazon. We've done all that integration work. But if you want to move to a single operational model, then that is available to you too.
I would quickly want to also talk about AI specific workload, because as the conversations about AI, they are easy one, but actually the workloads are complex, resource intensive. We all know that. As per Mirantis, or according to you, how is your Kubernetes and cloud native approach is going to further simplify these kind of modern use cases, which are either very complicated now, and of course Mirantis root goes back to OpenStack as well, which is like massive thousands of cores. So we should not talk about simplicity and complexity to Mirantis, but I would love to hear your thoughts on your approach for AI workload and make things easier for teams.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, I mean, we were the original private cloud pioneers. Back in the day, we've got, many, many, many years of experience and, thousands of installations of experience and, servicing customers. And we've learned a lot over the years. So one of the things that, that we've clearly seen that when it comes to AI workloads is there are many different factors and complexities. And I won't, go diving deeply into the deep technical details because I'm not the guy for that. But one of the key things is that, the overall model and the overall architecture is very distributed. Particularly when you start to talk about, inference training, more centralized, but inference, starts to push out and be very, very distributed. When you put that in the context of a highly regulated environment of, this geopolitical environment we live in, it causes a lot of complexity of, okay, how do you ensure data sovereignty? We've kind of, solved for that once. Now we've kind of got to look at that again. But how are you ensuring that, you're using the right model at the right place? That you're running on the right GPU and you're using that GPU efficiently, that you're pulling data from the right place. All of this has to be orchestrated and coordinated at incredible scale. The number of workloads running out there is growing exponentially. And one of the use cases that we've seen is that, a lot of, service providers, for instance, and this applies to big enterprises, they're very concerned about, what we call hard multi-tenancy, about, true sort of isolation of workloads and things. And where we've done that before in the Kubernetes world in a single cluster with namespace, that doesn't cut it anymore. You actually need a sort of like a cluster per application or application per cluster. Once you start to do that, you then move into a world of, massive complexity and sprawl, and you need to be able to get your arms around that and that, not have that be the second order problem that kills you. And so k 0rdent, again, was designed for that and designed for this AI use case. In terms of being able to, scale massively on the multi-cluster side, do that in a very declarative way, be composable and push out as far to the edge as you need, and also be able to, take, for instance, an inference workload and say, hey, I want to be able to predefine, the models I'm using, the GPUs I'm using, and get the greatest utilization I can out of the underlying infrastructure and hardware while making sure that it's all orchestrated properly. So lots of big complex problems, but we feel we're providing a great start for organizations to start practically addressing those in the real world.
If you look at Mirantis family of Kubernetes-related projects, whether we talk K0 or Cosmotron is there, of course, k0rdent is there, and of course, Lens is there. How does all of it fit together to once again help enterprises in their journey?
So actually, when we introduced k 0rdent, as I said back at the beginning of the year, and we announced and launched and GA'd k 0rdent back then, we had actually taken mature technology that we have used and matured over many years, including K0s and Cosmotron. And, we actually contributed those to open source. So those are now sandbox projects, because we feel it's really important to, innovate in the open. And we've integrated those into the k 0rdent platform. So k 0rdent is actually kind of built of, some building blocks that are, mature technologies that we've nurtured and matured over the years. That we're now contributing to open source. So all of these building blocks, all of these pieces, we're driving towards a world, and our strong belief is that, infrastructure, particularly AI infrastructure, should be Kubernetes-native. That Kubernetes is the common denominator and the common orchestrator and language for for AI infrastructure of the future. And this is why in building an AI platform and in building, a multi-cluster platform like k0rdent, we've ensured that, that this and all of the other pieces that, we're working on and that we've contributed are all founded in a Kubernetes, native paradigm.
Excellent. One last question is that you folks, kind of made the announcement today. Talk a bit about how mature is it for businesses to start using it?
Oh, it's, this is actually, as I said, we actually sort of GA'd a while back and we've been, working with customers and that. This is, really the announcement, based on the sort of, virtualization that we've now actually created a user interface and a user experience for the virtualization, piece of k0rdent that enables it to be familiar to to the VMware users. So this is quite mature. This is out there. We have customers using it. This is frankly is the underlying technology was GA'd months back. But this is more about the the user experience. This is more about now being able to provide UIs and things that make it a familiar operational experience.
Dominic, thank you so much for joining me today, and of course, give us an update on k0rdent. Thank you so much, and I look forward to chatting with you again. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.